Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I am Judah. It is the holiday season, so Merry Christmas to you all. Over the weekend, I watched a holiday horror film called Deadly Games, Code Dial Santa Claus. Also, it is a French film.
French. Latin-based, of course. Inventors of mayonnaise.
I like mayonnaise.
So I decided to give this movie a try. Let's check out the trailer and let's talk about it. I will be pausing the trailer periodically in hopes to detour me getting some kind of a copyright claim.
He's 9 years old.
Okay, first of all, what I want to say is they mention in this trailer that he's 9 years old, but I don't actually know in the movie if they say he's 9 years old. I mean, he kind of looks it, but if you look at the year, which, okay, first of all, Shudder says that this was made in 1990, but the internet says 1989. I don't know, but based on some other interesting stuff that I discovered, I'm going to lean that it really was in 1989, and Shudder needs to get their crap together and give appropriate years. Based off the age of this actor, he's actually like 12 or 13. He was born in 78. I don't know. What is that? Maybe that makes him 11 or 12. I don't know. I'm not going to figure it out right now. But they're saying he's 9, which makes more sense within his belief of Santa. But let's just keep going.
His name is Thomas. He's a little genius. He believes in Father Christmas.
I would also like to mention this kid has a mullet that even Joe Dirt would be jealous of. Now, anybody who was born in the 80s and has had long hair, I don't think you've escaped having a mullet. At some point, I think you probably had a mullet. If you got through this without a mullet, you know, bless you. But even I did not escape, except I didn't have a cool mullet like this kid. It wasn't styled. It was just a freaking bowl cut mullet, you know, bangs, long hair. Yes. And I wasn't a child. Well, I mean, comparably to what I am now, yes, I was a child. But I was a teen when I was sporting this thing. I also had a job. What was I thinking?
His two favorite pastimes? Computers and superheroes. December 24th, midnight. Hidden under the dining.
This trailer makes this seem like a legit movie. And I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying with that voiceover and stuff, I'm like, yeah, this looks pretty good.
Room table. Thomas waits for Father Christmas.
With a hand grenade.
But what he does not know is that he is about to experience the most frightening night in his entire life.
This kid lives in a freaking mansion, like a huge, huge mansion. And I'm going to give spoilers. Some of this frustrates me at how massive of a mansion this kid has. All the toys that this kid owns. It's absurd. What was my point? Also, apparently their basement is just dirt. That might make sense later on. We'll see if I get to that. Okay, you saw that phone just a second ago? Again, spoilers. This lunatic comes in, cuts the phone line so they can't call, but there's still one phone working. And the other star of this movie is his grandpa, which, oh my gosh, I was so stressed out throughout this whole movie that this grandpa's going to get killed. And I'm freaking out. Like, literally, I was so stressed. I had so much fear for this grandpa that can't see well, has diabetes. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, I was terrified. But anyway, this mansion is huge. Huge. Oh my gosh, this mansion is so big. Somehow, in this hidden passage that apparently nobody knows about except for this child and now the grandpa, the child's dad, and the child's dad's dad. Apparently this mansion has been passed down from generation to generation. and it belongs to the male lineage apparently. And with each generation, the father will tell the son about this hidden space. And at some point, they move all the toys into this massive room. So this huge room, I mean, huge. It's like I can't even begin to explain to you how huge this room is, and it's hidden and nobody knows about it. It's just filled with toys from generations of this family, the male generation of this family. So they're in this room. I totally forgot what I was even talking about. And they hear a phone ring and they're like, oh, there's still a phone that works? And the grandpa's like, yeah, it's the one from your mom's office. That phone was not in any... Whose office is this? That was in some creepy attic that had nothing but a table and a phone. Just me being nitpicky. Did I mention it has a dirt basement? I did appreciate this Santa Claus costume. Not necessarily, the whole beard situation, but I think this jacket and pants is just fantastic. I really appreciated it. The lighting in this is super late 80s, early 90s. I mean, to a T. There are some times where there's just random like neon lights shining on walls. And it's like, what? Why? Where's this weird neon pink and blue coming from? As I say this, and I have my, my colored lights in the back, which speaking of, I decided to leave my overhead lights on for this review. Give me your thoughts. Was that a bad idea? Should I shut those off? I don't know. What do you think? Off? I mean, it definitely makes my face stand out more, but on? Give me your thoughts in the comment section.
He finally met his match. Wanted, Mr. Xmas.
Honestly, you may have heard an echo while I was wearing those because those headphones were turned up mighty high. When I first started watching this, besides being shocked at the sheer enormity of this child's mullet that I was a little jealous of, like 5 or 8 minutes in, I was getting heavy Home Alone vibes. And because, as I mentioned, Shudder said that this was made in 1990. So I'm like thinking, I wonder, when did Home Alone come out? So I look up Home Alone, and it says Home Alone came out in 1990. I was like, okay, so maybe this is one of those instances where you have two people who have kind of the same idea, and they come out like Deep Impact and that Bruce Willis movie that I can't remember the name. What? Yeah. Armageddon. There we go. Woo! Got a little boomer moment there. So, Deep Impact and Armageddon. Basically, the same movies came out around the same time. It seemed really absurd. I was thinking maybe it was one of these kind of situations. I stopped the movie, started doing some research, and lo and behold, I'm not the only person who saw insane similarities between Deadly Games and Home Alone. I go to IMDb, and here in the trivia, it says director Renee Manzoor. I'm sorry, Renee, if that's not how you pronounce either of your names, accused Home Alone to be plagiarized version of his film and even threatened legal action against the producers. So obviously there's something there. So within that, I found that Deadly Games came out in 1989, Home Alone, 1990. It is very plausible that these people saw this and were like, oh, we can do this better. Now, granted, Home Alone for a lot of people has become a classic for them. No, I mean, there were some moments, and I remember seeing it in the cinema. My older brother took me to go see it. We had to sit in the freaking front row. It was so packed. And I remember back then enjoying it, but it just, for me, it wasn't something like, oh, I need to continue to watch this every year. I love it that much. I've said in some horror chats, if there was like a Christmas movie for me, especially within the horror genre, because Home Alone is not horror, but I think there's a foreign movie, Finnish, I think, called Rare Exports. It somewhat plays off of the Krampus kind of lore in there. This movie, Rare Exports, has such heart to it. Now, I know there's going to be people out there that are like, no, you're overblowing this. But when I saw it, first of all, I think it was the interest in the Krampus lore that made me watch Rare Exports. And this is supposed to be a review on Deadly Games, but I didn't get to doing a review for Rare Exports. So this is just going to be kind of a plug. When I first watched that, it has a child lead, and the story just has so much heart. Rare Exports. But there is a lot of male nudity in this movie. And if it wasn't for this gratuitous old man Ghiblies throughout the movie, this, in my opinion, Rare Export should be a classic Christmas story that families should get together and watch yearly. But I don't think it'll ever reach that, because even if I had kids, and I don't have kids, kids are not my thing. I would not share that with my kids simply because of the gratuitous man junk flinging in the air. But Rare Exports is a high recommend from me. Now, if you're to go online and look at what other people rate it, it gets a very mid to low rating. But for me, it's a high 7 out of 10. Back to this movie, which I've completely lost my track of thought of where I'm even going with it. Deadly Games. Okay, I was talking about Home Alone being something that people watch every year. Not for me. I never felt like he was really in danger. Like, Macaulay Culkin always feels like he's in control of the situation. In this movie, Deadly Games, there feels like there's real stakes involved here. Now, again, spoiler warning. For me, as an animal lover, this movie has a very disturbing, traumatic scene when this Santa figure comes in. The dog knows that he's no good and tries to help the situation. And the dog is disposed of quite quickly with a table knife. You know, between avoiding being murdered, setting up booby traps, he takes his dog into the basement, digs a hole, and buries him. The Santa Claus is a confusing character. When he's first introduced, you feel almost sympathetic. You see a bunch of kids having a snowball fight in the street, and he's an onlooker. And he's like, oh, look, these people are having fun. I want to have fun. So he gets a snowball, and he gets in the center of this, and he throws one snowball, not aggressively, in a playful way. And he's kind of like, yeah, throw them at me. And the kids are just like, ew, weirdo, old man. They don't actually say that, but they all just disperse. And you see the heartbrokenness on this man's face. And my heart went out to him. Not that I would be like, hey, bro, let's have a snowball fight. I mean, my heart didn't go out to him that much, but it went out enough to feel bad for him and be like, yeah, why are people so mean? But kids are horrible in the first place. So you feel a little torn for this guy, but at this point, you're not really sure what his place is in the story. You also get introduced to the child, Timothy, his grandpa, and his mom. Now, his mom is apparently like the manager of some big store, kind of like a Macy's or something like that. She's a big wig. So she goes off, to do, girl boss stuff. And I know some of you might take offense to that, but she's literally a girl and she's the boss. So she's going to do girl boss stuff. And the son is pretty frustrated. At the same time, he's having a conversation before his mom leaves. He's having a breakfast conversation with his grandpa and his mom. They're talking about Santa Claus and how his best friend says Santa Claus isn't real. And I'm a big proponent of not lying to your children. I feel like life is difficult enough. As kids, you know that we generally take the beliefs of our parents as our own. It's only until we start parsing things out do we really separate and claim our own beliefs. But I think it's hard enough in life to figure out what's true and false, whereas we have people purposefully lying to you, telling you that something is real when they full well know it's a lie. And then you grow up and you find out, oh, that's been a lie the whole time. I feel that that's damaging to kids, because then how are they supposed to trust you? And I know, I can see some of you being like, it's just fun. It's something for them to believe in. It's some kind of magic. And I get that. I totally understand that. But I think there should be a way that we can do this where we're not lying to our kids. You know, the kids need to be able to trust us. And if we're telling them untrue things, telling them that it is true, and then one day revealing to them, yeah, I've been lying to you for years. I just think that is unhelpful to society as a whole. So this child, Timothy, he's talking about how his best friend says Santa isn't real and that just the parents buy the gifts. Well, instead of the mom being like, okay, Tommy's at the age where I should probably be like, yeah, this whole Santa thing isn't real. No, what does she do? She compounds the lies by being like, well, that's because your friend's a bad boy and Santa doesn't bring him gifts. And obviously his parents love him and they don't want him to feel bad. So yeah, they're buying gifts for him. So, you know, bad kids don't get gifts. They have to get the gifts from parents, not from Santa Claus. And this kid's like, yeah, I get that. As you got from the trailer, he's supposed to be like some kind of a genius kid, but he's still a child, you know, and he still believes in fairy tales and so forth. So you got to give him that. So that whole conversation goes, she takes off with her chauffeur. But then there's another interaction. He's playing Dungeons and Dragons with his grandpa, which is kind of hilarious. And the whole topic gets brought up again. So this kid is really struggling with this belief in Santa, trying to, you know, look at reality and be like, how can this be? And he's like telling his grandpa there's no proof. And his grandpa's saying, well, do you believe in this? And he's like, yeah, well, there's no proof. And to my point, he's like, well, if Santa, you know, there's no proof about Santa, like maybe Napoleon doesn't exist. And the grandpa's like, oh, now you're going to start questioning this stuff? Well, yeah, exactly. Because if you're freaking lying about, sorry, getting on a tangent. Let's get back to this movie. This all sets up just this child's, this belief system. The whole movie hinges, some of the emotions that you should feel in this movie hinges on the accepting something as a child. He's super intelligent. He builds himself like this power glove that can control all of the cameras. The security system in this home has its like a little 2-inch screen on this power glove of his, and he can check everything out. And his plan is, I'm going to get proof that Santa exists. One, so I can shut my friend up. I'll be the first person ever to see him, capture him, and I will have evidence. It'll be amazing. Tommy has his friend over, the friend that says that Santa's not real. And they're on this like super old school computer. Again, remember this is 1989. And they're in some kind of a chat, which I don't even think that I even knew what a chat room was at that point. When I looked up online about this system, this was a very early system in France where what they did is they were trying to provide each home a digital access to like the yellow pages. And there was also, you could buy things on it. You could you have chats and so forth. So apparently there was a specific like number that you could dial and you could talk to Santa Claus. That's what I'm gathering. It's a little iffy based off of the things I was reading. So he's on this chat, and him and his best friend, and Tommy's like, see, look, I'm chatting with Santa Claus right now. And this kid's like, no, it's probably just some weirdo on a public server. I'm using modern day terms. They were using the terms that worked for them at that time period. Well, then they cut to the scene of that dude who was in that snowball fight at just some weird computer in this open sky kiosk area. There's tons of people just walking around, and there's just this one lone computer, like public computer in this open space where he's chatting with this kid, trying to get telling the kid that he's Santa Claus and trying to get his address so he can come play with him, which is not creepy as all get out. And then somehow before he gives him the address, somehow the connection gets severed, which almost made it look like it was because the vagrant didn't put enough money in it, because then it goes back to him and he's like popping quarters into this machine and banging it like, no, bring me back my prey that I can go after and creep on later. The whole scenario was just weird to me, being that there's some kind of a weird public use computer that you paid by the minute. I'm sure there was something at some point well beyond me at my age at that time. And obviously the U.S. was behind the times if that stuff was going on in France in the late 80s. Anyway, within the interaction, this vagrant does find out that Tommy's mom works at this Macy's type place. He goes there, gets a job as a Santa Claus. And this whole time, you're seeing him. He has the joy of Christmas. He's looking at things. He's excited. He sees this other Santa Claus engaging with people and children, and he sees the joy exchange between them. And you can see this is what he wants. He wants this connection, this human connection. See what I'm saying? The antagonist is very confusing and very empathetic towards him. This desire. But of course, me as an introvert, it's only like, it's interaction at a distance, please. So he goes and he gets a job as a Santa, and he's enjoying it, and he's getting kids on his lap. He's getting them candy, and then he has an encounter with this little punk ass kid who's sitting on his lap and basically says to him, I don't like your face. Yanks his beard off or something. No, he couldn't yank his beard off. Well, yeah, he could. He did. Okay, because of the dude had a real beard, but he also had a fake beard on top of it, a white fake beard. You're not the real Santa Claus. So this is where things slightly take a turn for the worse. The guy gets a little pissed off and slaps the kid. I mean, me, from my perspective on children, I'm like, yeah, that's right. Slap him again, that little punk. But I understand that most of you would kind of be like, that's overstepping a line. You don't slap children, especially ones that are not your own. Most kids that aren't your own deserve to be smacked. I'm just saying. I could be wrong. Leave a comment in the leave a comment. Let me know if I'm wrong. I know my limits. This is why I don't have children, okay? I knew beforehand, but when that movie Babadook came out and that little kid was in the back seat freaking out, oh my gosh, I wanted that mom to turn around and slap the hell out of that kid. I think that was my real turning point when I was like, oh, bro, you are not dad material. You got to know yourself. Know your limitations. Tommy's mom happens to see this, and she's like, what the heck are you doing? You're fired. Take your suit back to the man, I don't know, who's ever in charge of fake Santa Clauses. Go there. He goes, he somehow, as he's waiting, hears the address for where Tommy lives, because this woman, puts all of her effort into taking care of her son. Now, what does she do? She gets a list of toys or things that he wants for Christmas, and she passes it off to her chauffeur to take care of because she can't be bothered, during her girl boss stuff to engage with her son and put her own time into picking up these toys for him. She just passes this note off to her chauffeur, says, get everything that's on the list and a few extras. And then he just passes it off to another dude, like the guy in charge of toys. And he's like, yeah, get everything on this list, wrap them up, and then drive them off to her house. So the vagrant hears all this stuff. He jumps in on this van. He gets taken to the house. He murders the driver. He murders the caretaker and the chef. He breaks into the house. All hell breaks loose. Home Alone incurs. Tommy is taking care of his grandpa, and he's leading his grandpa around the house trying to keep him safe. Oh my gosh, I was so stressed for this old man. He also has diabetes, and at some point he gets his insulin, and he's going into shock. It's traumatic. Here's where there becomes some kind of confusion for me with the antagonist. Yes, he murders this dog. Not a fan of murdering animals in any way. And you think that he's hunting down this child. And he also tries to murder the grandpa. He gets really close to freaking murdering his grandpa. But he actually gets a hold of Tommy. And you think like, oh, Tommy's done. He's done. But then he just jumps up and goes, okay, I got you. It's my turn now. And he runs to hide. And you're like, oh, this dude has mental issues. He is a child in his brain, and he just wants interaction. See, it's kind of heart-wrenching. This is almost about, mental illness in a way. But still, he's dangerous. It's very frustrating and scary. This line of he's trying to murder, but he's obviously somebody who's just really hungry for human connection, and he can't seem to get it anywhere. We failed him as a society. This is what turns good Santas bad. Each of us need to look inwardly, and we need to question what good Santa have we turned bad from our lack of interaction. It's just something we all have to do, especially during this season of Christmas. And I hope you take this to heart, because I know I'm not going to. Things get really crazy. Some cop shows up. This bad Santa kills the cop. Tom is getting chased around. He gets the cop's gun. He shoots the Santa. You think it's over, but obviously, as movies go, there's always two crescendos right at the end. You think things are done. You think it's all wrapped up. And then boom, things pick up again, even worse than what they were before. So he's in. His grandpa has now gone into shock. He's trying to give him his shot. And then lo and behold, crazy Santa comes in again, and you think Tommy's done for. He's done for. The grandpa picks up the gun and blows Santa away. End of movie. Mom shows up, hugs him, and Tommy's like literally shell-shocked. The kid is just like, Santa is dead because of me. It's my fault that Santa is dead. What I didn't mention is at one point the mom calls home. It's pretty late. And she's like, Tommy picks up the phone and she's like, why aren't you asleep? You're waiting for Santa, right? And he's like, yeah, I've set up, a trap. I'm going to catch him. I'm going to have proof. And she says, again, compounding the lies that we tell children. She goes, if Santa catches you trying to see him, he gets angry and turns into an ogre. So all these lies that his mom has told him is affecting him emotionally. Now, at this point, he truly believes, at the end of the movie, he truly believes it's his fault. The Santa would have always been good, but it was the fact that he broke the rules and saw him that Santa then became an ogre because Tommy broke the rules. And because Tommy broke the rules, his dog died, his grandpa almost died, and then Santa died, all because of him. This is how the movie ends. Like this kid just being in total shock. Like, oh my gosh, what did I do? It's all because of me. I'm a bad boy. Then the camera pans. You see the dead Santa. And then it pans up to the fireplace, which makes sense. But then it goes and it focuses in on a pair of like work boots And it just stops there. And I am so confused, and I do not understand what the significance of these work boots are. If you have watched this movie and you understand that, please leave a comment letting me know, because I am baffled as to what these boots have to do with anything. So, long story short, if that's possible, because I feel like I've just been talking for 34 minutes straight, would I recommend this movie? It's not bad. It's not bad. If you feel like watching Home Alone, but you're also kind of like, I'm over that, definitely give this a try. Again, I can see heavily why the director would feel that Home Alone stole from him. Highly believable. Did Home Alone do it better? Yes, they did. Definitely as a family movie, they did it better. But this is a nice reprieve from that Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin stuff that I'm personally tired of. But, good for Macaulay. Has he done anything? I think he's still living off the royalties of this movie. But good for him. I wish that I could find one cool thing that everybody loves and then just be set for life. But no, I'm going to be here still doing movie reviews that tons of you watch. I would probably give this a 6 out of a 10. Did I feel like I wasted my time? No. The production for its time, I think, is okay. But overall, it definitely had that 80s, 90s vibe to it. And this is French, so you're going to have to read subtitles unless you can find some kind of version where it's dubbed. But I highly suggest not watching a dubbed version. It's almost always worse. I did want to point out one thing. At one point, when the kid kind of gathers himself, him and his grandpa are hidden and he feels safe. He feels like he can prepare to take on the Santa. He gets all geared up. Okay. He gets all strapped up with all his weapons. He puts, makeup on, so he can blend in with the jungle background that's in this mansion. I don't know. Anyway, so he gets all geared up, Rambo'd up to take on Santa. But for some reason, in all of this gearing up, he doesn't take the time to put shoes on, which plays into it because there are many scenes where he's running around out on the roof or outside on the ground in freezing snow, and he's like shivering and his feet are freezing. And I'm like, you took the time to put all this on and did you once think maybe I should put shoes on? I don't know. These are just the nitpicky things that I like to point out to ruin the movies for you. For movies that are otherwise 10 out of 10, but my nitpickiness lowers them to 6. Have you seen this movie? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate a subscribe and a like. And if you're really good, please share. Okay, catch you next time. Bye.